Good morning. So what I'd like to do is invite my group of speakers up, and what we're planning on doing is a 10 to 15 minute presentation from each person, and then open for questions. So if I could have Eve Pope and Fahd, John Dyer, and Rodney Wilson. Our session is about NRENs and the future. So you will find I think we've got a set of presentations talk about what we see as some of the future changes coming up in NRENs, some of the future opportunities. So I'd like to start off with a presentation of my own on a topic that we're starting to hear about. My colleagues from Internet 2 have talked about NREN 3. So we sort of, the first Internet was NREN 1. We've been going through NREN 2, and now what is NREN 3? Where should we be going next with NRENs? Okay. So we believe NREN 3 is about globalization. It's no longer are we talking about research and education networks from the standpoint of just our nation, but we're looking at the interconnectivity between our nations. And there's a number of things that are driving that for us. So if we look at what we have, what many of us have today, and what we developed and what we needed to develop, we were a bit of a specialized regional ISP. And I don't think this speaks for everyone, but there was potentially some hesitation on taking risks because we really needed to deliver. We tended to be on the supply side. Were we brokering contracts? We were certainly a knowledge carrier. We tended to provide some perhaps solutions. Bit of business as usual. If you talked with NRENs, it was all about, okay, this is what we've been doing, this is what I'm going to do in the future, and I'm expecting to do the same in the future, maybe a bit more capacity, but that's where my services are. Community service, we were very concerned about our own communities, not necessarily about the larger community of schools, education, museums, libraries. And some places and some people might say we had started to become a political. So we're seeing some disruptive technologies that are requiring us to rethink what are we doing in the NREN space? What do we need to deliver to our community for the future? If you look at the mobile internet and what the amount of traffic that is moving into mobile, if you look at the automation in knowledge work, the whole concept of the Internet of Things, cloud, robotics, oil and gas explorations, advanced materials, 3D printing, all of these are very large data sources. And they're becoming a large influencer in global economies. We have to look at how are we going to be a part of this delivery. We're seeing definitely that big data, and obviously big data, a lot of definitions out there. But then when you look at the genome sequencing, I know a colleague of mine has been trying to move a single genome file of 1 gig between Doha and the US. And you know, without the right bandwidth, it can take days to move this along. You know, we've got Large Hadron Collider, we've got all of these different generators of data, and you know, they're now talking petabytes, exabytes, and some places are now starting to talk about zettabytes. So you know, this is getting pretty big stuff. Research, it's globalization. We've been saying this for years. Researchers are no longer just working with individuals within their own universities. They're not even working with individuals in the universities that are next door. They're working with universities and with individuals who are around the globe, and they want to be able to connect with those people from a discussion standpoint. They want to be able to share data. Sometimes they want to be able to work on the same data sets. And how are we enabling this? And there's a lot of money involved in here. You look at the annual funding, US-India, exceeding $28 billion or $2 billion. You know, so, and same in the China-US collaborations. We're also looking at higher education. I'm an example of that, right? I'm with Georgetown University. I'm located in Qatar. We're looking at remote campuses, and it's not just an American thing. There are, Nottingham University has campuses in Malaysia. University College London has campuses in Doha. I know they've got campuses in Australia. There's all of these different connectivities that they're looking for now. Then we've got the classical things of distance education, but distance education has changed. It continues to evolve. And finally, you've got the MOOCs, which has everyone excited, and all of the other variations that are coming from that. And those are deliveries, and especially as you start talking about MOOCs, this is not only now about delivering between a university and a university, this is between university and the community. How do you deliver to the community some of these materials? This was a slide that was I found about NREN speeds versus Moore's law. And you'll notice there's a flat spot there. There's a 9-year flat spot, just 2000 through to about 2009. This was a point in time where Internet 2 and the various RENs in the United States didn't do a lot of development. And we fell behind the average line of Moore's law. We need to pick it up again. There have been advances. We're certainly making some advances as we have to move big data. We've got to learn how to do more analytics with big data. And it's not just the traditional sciences. There's a lot of new paradigms coming up here. So, what's our consequences and the implications? From the globalization standpoint, clearly we're not working alone anymore. We can't work by ourselves. So we need to engineer our research and education networks so that they become, rather than national RENs, they become global RENs. And you know, that is an active area. I know there's actually meetings going on this week, I believe, down in Cape Town between some of the NREN CEOs. Team science, virtual teams, and IP. We've known this for some time. I mean, we've all at one point in time or another talked about how, you know, IP was never the optimal network, but it was the one that seemed to work, and it picked up everybody picked it up, and so it's become the network of choice, even if it's not optimal, because it does what we need it to do. But we need to find new ways. We're seeing some of this with software-defined networking, tools like OpenFlow, but being able to more actively configure our networks to function as we need them. And from the big data standpoint, it's not just about bigger pipes. I know we were trying to describe to conversation, trying to talk about how when a researcher's got this terabyte file that they need to send, it's a bit like watching a snake trying to digest some large animal. You know, there's this bulge has to move along the system. But we've got to make our capacity pipes such a way that they can actually expand and contract in a natural manner. So how do we re-architect and tune our systems to make them more functional in that way? Then concept that a colleague of mine, Steve Wolf, came up with, thinking about is future NREN nodes. Are computing centers and data centers going to be just another node on this? And how does that fit into the story? So we're also reaching the point where it's not necessarily in our best interest to move the data around, but we need to be able to connect people to the places where the computation is going to happen. We're seeing this with some of the cloud computing services that are coming out. But we've got changes that we're going to have to make as to how we program, how do we operate. And I've got a small example of a researcher working in partnership with economists in Princeton University, and they're using shared resources. Data set is actually sitting in Doha, and we've got economists connecting in remotely to that data set. But we may not even have all the data in one place. And we're going to have to now be starting to look at how do we connect data sources together computationally to work and to be able to work as a single data source in the long term. So trying to put all this data in one place may not be energy efficient either. We're talking a lot about green computing these days. As you can see the example here, it costs a lot of power just to keep all of that data in one place. So how do we distribute that better? So it also says to us, this is not just about the hardware technology and the infrastructure. It's also about teaching our engineers how to engineer the right type of network for the efforts that we're trying to do today for the results that we want. So I'm going to end this with some few thoughts on what is this NREN 3. What do we need to look at towards the future? We need to make that move from regional out to global. We need to look at becoming innovators again. David Lambert, CEO of Internet 2, will tell you that when Internet 2 was first formed, it was about bringing innovation. It was how the first internet was developed, was by innovation within the universities. And we've let that slide for a while. It's time to get that incubation going again. We need to be looking at how do we help our members to aggregate within the market. Marketplaces does control so much. Here in this region, we talk a lot about our conversations and our negotiation efforts with the telcos. So how can we, as a group, aggregate and work to get better response, better pricings from the telcos? So can we aggregate our market requirements? But we're also looking at that from the services standpoint. And if you look at Internet 2 with their Net Plus services, you look in the UK, Janet has some brokering services. They're starting to look at it's more than just providing that connectivity. We need to look at how we can become part of that economic development engine. I think we already are. How do we become bigger participants in that? And community developers. It's much more than just the universities. In Qatar, earlier this week, they announced their national broadband plan. And as part of that plan, they talked about educating the whole of the country in being digital users and having the right skills in order to use the digital technology. Well, you can't do that unless we've got that technology out there available to them at a reasonable price, and that we're providing the right educational assistance to them. So we need to work with our communities. It's not about working in silos. And it is definitely believed, I mean, if we can use our NRENs to improve the economies, we probably in that process can also help in improving political stability. Because many times political turmoil, it's not about philosophies in politics. It's more often it's about the economics. So how do we get, how can we help improve the economics of the regions we're working in? Okay. So I'd like to leave it at that for my own presentation and start